Welcome everyone. Today in Giraffe we're going to be discussing layers. So the layers panel is on the left hand side, we can see over here, and this data that we have in the layers panel is displayed visually on the map. So we have a layer for the 3D buildings data, and that's what we can see if I expand this base map group here in the layers panel. So with each project in Giraffe we get a number of layers that load by default, and I've gone ahead and actually added in some additional layers for this tutorial. So we've got the heritage, floor space, and the land zoning layer, which I'm actually going to remove and then re-add in for demonstration purposes. So let's remove the land zoning layer. I'm just going to select the layer options here, remove from project. And now, in order to bring that back, we have to access the spatial data library, and we can do that through the plus icon at the top of the layers panel. I'm just going to select that. It'll load up all of my spatial data library layers, and we do have other videos that cover this in more depth, so feel free to check them out. However, for this tutorial, we're just going to simply search for the layer. So land zoning was the name of the layer, and I can see that listed here. So I'm going to select that and exit out of the spatial library. Now I can see that populate on the map. I'm also going to toggle off the satellite imagery. So we've got a little eye icon here that allows you to toggle off the layer completely like I just did, or we've got the scrubber so I can sort of click and drag and slide the opacity there, which is quite nice. Or you can type directly into the panel and adjust it that way. So a number of ways we can control our layers, but we can see that land zoning that's dropped in, and now we've got a better understanding of our site and the zoning constraints around it. So we're in a mixed use zone here in Sydney, Australia on Fig Street. And now what I want to do is actually group my layers together. So I'm going to just drag them on top of each other. It'll prompt me with a group name, type in LEP controls for this one. And I also want to add in my heritage layer here also. So now I can collapse that group, and I'll collapse the base map group also, and we keep a more control over what we have in the layers panel for clarity. So I'm going to open that group up, and now what we can also do is search for layers. So once we start building out this layers panel, it can get quite busy, so it is helpful to know that we can search for layers. So if I'm looking for the trees layer, I can go up here and type in trees, and it will return that result, which is nice. And anytime we adjust the opacity of a layer, we need to remember to save the visibility if that is in fact what we want to do. So when you adjust the opacity of a layer, and let's say we turn off the LEP controls completely, we have to make sure that we save that visibility in order to remember that the next time we open up the project. So some key items there to remember, and the last thing I want to touch on is the lens tables. So with the lens table, it's more of an advanced feature, but it is crucial to that first workflow in order to create a project. So I want to cover it in this tutorial. And we're going to go to 3D buildings to demonstrate this, as this is a vector layer which is identified by the little icon on the left here. And when I hover over that, we can see there's an additional feature that says open lens table. So I'm going to select that. And what it does is bring up in table format what we can see visually displayed on the map. We're not going to dive into this as that's a more advanced feature, and we have other videos that cover off that information. But for this tutorial, we're going to apply a filter, and we're going to draw a boundary for that filter. So I'm just going to draw a boundary, and now it's brought me into the edit mode. So what I can do, if I wanted to exclude these neighboring buildings from my site proposal, I can just trace around them with my polygon tool. And once I'm finished, double click, and we can see now that it has removed those layers, which is quite nice. So I'm just going to select done and hit save, and now we can close out of that lens table, and we've got a clean site to work with, which is perfect for setting up our project to come.